Good morning and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Hanley. This is the Business and Banter Podcast. Do you know what? In the last 4 episodes, I keep forgetting to say that. So, if you're new here, if you're returning, just so you know where you are, this is the Business and Banter Podcast. We talk a lot about business. Apparently, according to some people, there's no banter, but stick around and find out for yourself. And occasionally, we just talk a lot of nonsense. My name's Hanley. I'm a car part reseller from Scotland. Sam sells clothing in the middle of freaking nowhere in Australia, and she does it really good as well, which is insane. But today we have a special treat for you. We're going to give you the gift that everyone has been asking for. Today we're going to fix eBay.
Apparently. I don't know if they'll actually take any of our advice on, but we can certainly give it a try.
Listen, yesterday, I told Sam this, yesterday I had eBay business development phone me. And given the whole saga in the UK with fees, no fees, free fees, everyone just, it's practically the Wild West out here. I was speaking to him and just having a talk. Well, I was speaking at him, to put it better. Very nice. The guy was very nice. We had a very respectful conversation because honestly, there's no point in going off at these people. It's not them. They don't even have the power to remove negative feedback at this point. Never mind changing what I want them to change. But we had a very good conversation. And I told them I'm going to be recording a podcast about this the next day because we actually decided on this like a week ago. So we have to make this one really professional because they might be listening. I mean, probably not, but they might.
The reason why we had the week off, because Nigel has threatened to unsubscribe and do all of the things, is because Hanley's kids were sick, unfortunately.
Yes,
So thankfully,
Nigel.
Yeah, right?
My poor kids, Nigel. But we're back this week. There was a terrible bug going. I'll spare you the details. Honestly, we don't need to talk about it. It was an experience. But such is the joys of parenthood. Back to eBay. It's been crazy the last 2 years how much has changed on eBay. Don't you think so? Like,
Oh, it
actually,
changes
when
every day.
I know, when I sat back and actually thought about all of it, like, how much is different now than it was just 2 years ago? eBay seems to be on this extreme trend of just, like, changing everything.
Even the typing and the layout of where it sits inside boxes have moved over the last week. Like the indentation sits closer to the side than it did previously. Like the smallest nuances, like why, I don't understand why you're doing this at this time of year. It's like the busiest time of year. Please stop fiddling with the platform.
I sometimes can't help but think that eBay is a bit disconnected from the people who actually use the platform. You know, that way they're kind of doing what they think, but I don't think anyone at eBay who's actually approving these changes spends more than 2 hours a day on eBay. Like, do you spend at least 2 hours a day on eBay as a user listing some things? And I know they don't, but they really should. How can you approve and make changes when you're not actively using something? And I sometimes think, why are you even bothering with this? Like, this bothered no one. There's 110 actual problems. Why are we renaming tabs?
From like a corporation perspective, I'm assuming that it's because they've had a high transition through certain positions. So the new person comes in and they're like, I'm going to make it look the way I want it to look. And that's why we do have those changes that aren't necessarily actually functional, helpful changes. Like the most helpful change in the last couple of years was the coupon. Like that was sensational in terms of the ability to send that out to, like, I suppose, private coupons to buyers. But outside of that, like I don't necessarily think that there's been any really fundamental changes that have really progressed my business onwards.
But there really hasn't been. Like, I was
No.
trying to think of, because I didn't just want to come with the things that I thought needed improving. I wanted to write down things that I thought were changes that had been made that was really good. And I genuinely struggled to find something that was very impactful in my business. Like, actually made to propel me forward. And that being said, eBay has a bunch of great features. My business at this point is 98% eBay. It's thriving. I don't want to say it's thriving because if they listen to this, I want them to know that the fees are bothering me. Okay. I actually told the guy on the phone, it's choking my business. And he's like, checked out my account and he's like, but you're up X and X amount like from last year. And I was like, that's not the point. That's
You're
not the point.
still paying fees on that.
I know. So this is not a down on eBay sucks episode. This is just some things that we would like to see changes made on to actually help the business, or things that I feel like are a hindrance in my business. And I'll kick us off with a little pet peeve of mine, a personal little vendetta I have. I don't know if it's the same in Australia. When I do 30-day free returns, no issues. My issue is when someone opens a return, eBay now gives them 21 working days. 21 working days to send it back. And then the audacity of someone to last week call eBay on day 20 and say, sorry, I couldn't, can I get an extension? And they gave him another 12 days. And I'm like, do you not understand that this item of mine has now been in limbo for almost 3 months?
So that's not what happens here. So for us, it's 21 days, so 15 business days is the policy. However, on one failed update like 3 years ago, that did happen, and it was just a failed update where it eventually went back to normal. Because that was super annoying. That went on for like, I reckon, a good 3 to 4 months before it changed back.
But this is absurd. If I have a 30-day free return policy, surely the item should be returned within 30 days.
You would assume so, but I guess
I researched this last night. Okay, if I buy something from Dyson, I don't know anyone, okay, and they have a 30-day return policy, I have to physically return the product to them within 30 days. If I show up on day 30 and say, I'd like to return this in the next 21 working days, they're going to be like, no.
Yes, and I'm
So
pretty sure
this
if
is
you called
not,
them enough for an extension, they'd tell you where to go as well.
I want to clarify, this is not consumer law in the UK. This is eBay. Just absolutely. You know what? In Afrikaans, in South Africa, we have a saying, and I wish I could find a good translation for it in English, but it's like you're pulling the dam out from under the duck. Like, that's how ridiculous you're being. You're literally like yanking the dam out here.
Devil's advocate, is it actually a policy, or is it just like the system's just started doing this?
I think the system, they just decided this because this is also another one of those fun updates that they didn't tell anyone about. It just happens, isn't it?
Well, yes, that does annoy me. So it may just be a glitch like we've had in the past. So maybe don't hang on to that one too tightly. But I do love when you get so worked up about these things. You get so emotive.
Okay, you're next.
I'm next. Yeah, no, I'm just going to sit here quietly because I know you don't like awkward silences, and then you'll just keep talking. I would like to say that finding 5 things that were wrong with the platform, because I inherently really love the platform, was hard because it kind of made me view it through a different lens. But recently on an update, they've taken away the repeat buyers squiggly line underneath. So it's like this grayed out color that blends into the background. And it's infuriating me because I keep overlooking it. So I keep missing bundling items that people don't check out for together. And it's even resulted in a neutral feedback, which is extremely frustrating.
That would annoy me as well.
Yeah.
But doesn't your shipping tool automatically bundle items?
We don't. In Australia, we have a cheaper rate if we use the Australia Post external business account, so we don't actually ship through eBay.
This is another thing. Did I tell you about that? In the update that there was an update. eBay CEO did an interview or something, and it came out yesterday. And one of the things he was saying is basically in quarter 1, customer to customer, so private accounts, will now no longer have selling fees. There'll be a buyer fee, and the buyer will pay the fee. But also, right, the buyer will now buy the shipping label, and eBay will just send it to the seller. So you'll be able to tick what services you offer. Yes, the buyer will buy the item, pay a buyer fee, pay for the label. eBay will email you the label. You just print the label and send the item.
Oh, that could come up with a whole lot of issues. I don't know how I
Well,
feel about
that's how Vinted here works.
Oh, wow.
So,
Because this is probably an Australia thing only, but like where I live, because as you so delicately put, I live in the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of postage companies that don't actually ship to me. So sometimes when eBay issues a return label, they use a third party that actually doesn't deliver to my
yeah.
location. So it just doesn't go anywhere. They receive it and it just sits there, and then eventually the case gets put on hold, and then my sales die for 7 days. This is actually a very good one. This is extremely annoying, until they sort it out, and then it still doesn't go anywhere because they don't deliver to Alice Spring. So I can see that being a terrible idea, because if they checked out with one of those partner companies, then I wouldn't be able to ship it. We don't have a depot.
Well, they're calling it managed postage. So managed payments, managed postage. And I guess you'll be able to pick the ones you're willing to provide, because we have quite a lot of providers in the UK. So you can pick the ones you're willing to provide. The buyer will buy the item. So I'll advertise it for £10. The buyer will check out. It'll then add a buyer fee. They'll then have to select the postage label they want to buy. They'll check out, it'll email the postage label to the person, and they'll just ship the item.
So
Which,
you go.
oh no, which could make a lot of sense for like when it comes to having to qualify for VAT and stuff, because technically your shipping will no longer be part of your turnover.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. The thing that so we're going to sit here and we're going to essentially complain for about an hour about the things that either don't work or the changes that have been made that we don't like, because inherently as people we tend to not like change. So if I was a
Yes.
buyer and then all of a sudden I go from putting things in a cart and they have my information pre-saved and then I go pay, to then having to do all this extra stuff, I'm not going to buy that. That's way too much work
Yeah,
and
I
too
think
many changes.
it'll definitely depend on how it works. If it
Mm,
needs to be a 2-click process, or
totally.
it's going to put people off. Do you know what I mean? It needs to
Mm.
be a very easy 2-click process. But I thought that was very interesting.
That is interesting, and it's also interesting that like Macari has walked back the buyer paid fees, because obviously the buyers don't like the idea that they're paying the fees, even though it's built into the price of the purchase that they're paying us for anyway. So it's going to be interesting to see if that actually sticks with eBay.
I know. So another one is a recently thing that was rolled out. And again, we got zero communication about this. We just noticed it happening. No one said a word. Okay. Our offers are now valid for 4 days.
Oh wow, we do.
4 days, Sam. Why do you need 4 days to decide on my offer? But that also means if I want to make changes to my listing or whatever,
You can,
I now 4 days from when you send an offer. Also, if you plan to go on holiday mode,
yeah.
now you have to stop sending offers, what, 5 days before?
So about that. So you remember when I had the issue with the postage lady, missed the flight, etc., and I just rapidly put my store into time away? I had a whole bunch of stuff that was still pending payment that had been purchased before the store went into holiday mode, that were subsequently then paid for while we were away, and I packed those items to ship while we were away. However, it did not go into the original handling time. It reverted to the store away mode. So I thought it was a glitch, and it was a glitch in my favor, but maybe because I don't use the feature very often, maybe it's just actually changed.
I'm not going to find out
No.
because maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I do think it's a bit absurd that it's 4 days. Why do people need 4 days for an offer? In my opinion, offers should only last for 24 hours.
I'm assuming it's because people don't go on the platform. within 24 hours. So they've looked at maybe UK people's shopping habits and they're like, oh, these people on average log in every 4 days, so we're going to give them 4 days to choose to accept the offer or not, just to
Yeah,
get
when they log in every 4 days, they would love to pay for the shipping and the fee.
yeah, especially if that changes during those 4 days. All right,
Don't
my
you?
next one
Okay.
is one that I'm experiencing today, so it's very deep in
Oh,
my heart,
oh, it's
is
fresh, people. The trauma is
the
fresh.
trauma, the INADs. When
Oh,
they allow buyers to put in false INADs, and I get it, there's an appeal process, and I'm very grateful for the appeal process. Not that they're granting my appeals at the moment, even though they're dead set buyer's remorse.
yes.
Why this continues to and the delay in getting the defects removed off your account, it just drives me bonkers. Because the guy sent me a message saying this doesn't fit, and I was like, no worries, return it. So he opened up an item not as described because it doesn't fit. That's not my fault. It doesn't fit your body type.
I don't understand why eBay is hell-bent on having a punishment system.
Mm,
And you can say the same about the item not received cases. Like, people open item not received cases, the tracking shows it was delivered, the case gets closed in your favor, yet it still shows on your service metrics.
as a
Why?
defect, right?
A
And
buyer messages you, says it doesn't fit, opens to INAD, you report them. It should be, why does it automatically count against you? Should it not be that they go review the cases and then count what? Like, why is it automatically just punishment?
so the item not received cases in Australia are actually no longer, for most accounts, managed by the seller. They're actually managed by eBay. So we have no input whatsoever. And then we still get a defect despite eBay managing the case. So if it has valid tracking, even if the buyer then says that they don't get it and they open up their case, blah, 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 eBay will then refund the buyer despite my tracking showing that it was successfully delivered and it doesn't come out of my money, yet I still get the defect on the account.
That's ridiculous to me. I don't understand why.
So it's money.
I know, but why do they insist on everything being? And this is why a lot of sellers are tired of eBay, because eBay has the mentality that they have the right to punish and impact our businesses as they see fit. And this is my issue with them. Like, who gives you that authority? And I understand we use your platform, but if it's an item not received case, it shows it was delivered, it gets closed in my favor. Why is that still going against me? Why? What did I do?
I understand why they do it, because obviously there's a whole bunch of dodgy people that maybe have previously used the platform to extort people for money and never ship items out. I totally get that, but I feel like there almost needs to be like a hierarchy and grading system where like once you've completed like this many sales, you move into like this server where we don't necessarily punish you as much, or we let the training wheels come off and then you kind of keep
Yes.
progressing, because I just feel like you can't just blanket rule everyone. Like it doesn't work.
My issue is eBay's approach to everything feels like, what's the most cost effective way we can do this? And what is the way we can do this with hiring the least amount of people? And that is just everyone's under the same blanket.
That's
And
actually
I get it from a business perspective, you have to try to be cost effective. But there is a point where it becomes detrimental to your business. And again, I'm going to go back to like the UK Vinted thing. No,
so.
but the mass exodus of
Mm.
sellers who left eBay to go to Vinted surely should show eBay that people are on edge with them, and the moment they get a new opportunity, they're out. Like, eBay has literally had to now give them free fees just to try to maintain a small percentage of them.
Oh, I guess you'd be better placed. Out of curiosity, how are people finding Vinted still? Like, is it still
Booming.
overwhelmingly positive, or are people coming back to eBay?
It's booming. Like, we have someone in the group in the UK who's doing an
Mm-hmm.
experiment. They're listing the exact same things on eBay and the exact same things on Vinted,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, Vinted in less than 3 months has doubled eBay.
Yeah, well, that says a lot, doesn't it?
Like, I'm not
Mm,
being funny, but Vinted isn't going away. It's like it's literally booming, and they're having teething problems as any new
of course,
platform would.
yeah.
But surely eBay would look at this and think, right, like the moment they got a new opportunity, there was no loyalty. Why is that?
I mean, there's a lot of history with eBay, whether it's positive or negative. There's people have lots of, I guess, issues. But this kind of ties in with my point four, which is that eBay is very reactionary in its
Mm,
behaviors, and it often makes decisions that it has to walk back, as I mentioned before. And I find that really hard because obviously not all decisions are or need to be made immediately. You can kind of sit on things
yeah.
for a little while and actually work it out.
I mean, I very much relate to that type of personality, you know? I like
No
being,
way. I've never seen you react to anything ever.
I like to very much be in the moment. But I will say nothing good has ever come of that. So, and it's the same with eBay. I feel like very much they also seem to go on like these really weird kicks where for a month or so they focus heavily on this and everything has to change to suit this vibe. And then literally 3 weeks later, no, we're going to forget about that now. And we're going, like,
Mm.
sometimes I get whiplash about what is it exactly that is going on here. But I also think it must be really, really hard to, like, run that type of organization because it is all it's global, right? Um, from what I was told, eBay, the base of eBay, like the core of eBay, is still the same it was when it was launched in like 1990. What was it, 1990?
I don't know what year it was launched, and I have no
I
idea.
think it was 1990. So they are just building and developing on top of the same
Yeah,
core, which must be really, really hard
yeah.
working off when your base is based on technology of 1990.
That's why there's so many issues with the platform. And
And
I
I
do
think,
empathize with them because if they were to move everything over to like
mm,
more modern based technology, it would completely just I'm not IT like savvy, but
yeah,
to move people's servers onto a different server with like and then to flick everything to go, you would have to essentially turn off like 50% of people globally to move them on and merge them onto this new technology because they were built in like Web 1 technology and now we're in Web 2 and now the world is moving towards Web 3 technology. And I just don't know how they'll cope with that if they don't like turn people offline, move it over, then turn the website off in Web 1 and then move the rest of the people over. But that's
it'll
not
be
something I
insane.
wanted.
But I think also that's why we sometimes feel like eBay aren't keeping up with the trends. I feel like maybe they are a bit limited in what they can do. Like imagine, I always think eBay's a bit like a submarine, you know? I don't know if you know this about submarines, but they don't maneuver well at all. They're really good at like going in a straight line. But they don't turn well, they don't, and I only know this because my husband works with tugboats, and the nuclear submarines come into fast lane through the Clyde and they need tugboats to pull them. And I was like, why does a submarine need a tugboat? That's, and he's like, well, they can't turn. Like, to turn them is, it's actually like they need like a massive wide berth. Just like they don't maneuver well. And I feel like eBay is like that. Like, a submarine is built well, it does what it has to do, but it's not good at changing lanes. Don't laugh, I'm being serious. Like, eBay was built to do X, but the world is trending in a different direction and they can't maneuver it.
Um, I really enjoy morning time Hanley analogies. They're
Oh,
my favorite.
I mean, that was a valid analogy. I'm
It
just
is a
like,
very valid analogy.
I feel like eBay,
I didn't know that.
well, there you go. Fun fact of the day, eBay's a lot like a nuclear submarine.
You don't want it to crash.
Ooh.
No.
Um, but that's the thing though. Like you say, I don't really understand IT and I only know about this because someone on eBay told me this, that
Mm.
um, it is still built of a very, and like you say, for them to upgrade it all, I don't think it's as easy as pushing a button like we do on our laptops, or some of us don't.
No.
Um, that just upgrades everything. Do you know? So I also think there has to be a bit of grace with eBay when it comes to that as well. But I think what my frustration with eBay is sometimes it's okay to just be what you are instead of trying to constantly be what everyone else is. Like Amazon is very structured in what they are. Do you know,
Yeah.
Amazon didn't flinch when Vinted or whatever came. Amazon doesn't flinch when eBay makes changes. Amazon are who they are. And I feel like eBay has an identity crisis. Every time something happens, we just want to change everything.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because even when Whatnot came about and we don't have it here, but was deemed to be quite successful, then eBay was like, oh, we're going to do live selling as well,
Yeah.
but only to a very minute, small amount of people, because they couldn't trust us all to not get them copyright infringements by playing cool music in the background and, doing some outrageous stuff on there. So yes, they do seem to just want to copy other people. I guess I hadn't thought about that.
And what did Amazon do when Whatnot came out?
Nothing.
Okay. What did Amazon do when Vinted came out?
Nothing.
Nothing. What did Amazon do when Poshmark came out?
I think
Nothing.
the only thing that maybe influenced Amazon, or maybe made Amazon a little bit nervous, is Temu, because
Yes. Yes.
it's cheap products fast.
Yes. But again, Amazon can identify what to react on or what not to react on. I feel like eBay just reacts to everything.
Literally everything.
I feel like it's constant crisis mode. Like we don't,
Maybe you could actually give them some input on how not to react, Hanley. You could be the teacher.
mate, do you know my personality? Like
I,
this is like the deaf leading the blind. What are we doing?
Did you not hear the sarcasm?
We teaching eBay to calm down. That oh yeah, that will go down really well. Really well.
I can imagine telling you to calm down would go really well as well.
Yeah, you should ask my husband.
I would
Oh,
love to.
he sent me a reel last night. It says, husbands, turn your sofa into a bed by simply telling your wife to calm down.
He's honestly, the things he says are just on point. When he said that you're a very loud complainer, yes, you like to make everyone know.
I do not suffer in silence. Um, do you have any other points?
I would like them to not do updates during our Q2, the US's Q4, the busiest time of year in the lead up to Christmas. It just, why? I've had maybe 12 updates this month and most of last month. October, because now it's November. And September was awful for updates, and it's the busiest time of year. Pick another time.
Do you think it's because they have to? Do you think because the system and
Why?
everything is so old and outdated that they have to do it just to keep it running?
No.
No.
But I am not that well versed in technology to know. If you're just
Yeah.
changing the layout of things and you've now changed how my emails are sent, so
Yeah.
the text in the emails and the font and everything's all, and the margins are all over the place. So clearly, it's not been a successful update for that one. Um, yay! But I just, whether it's a staffing thing and it's because they have all their staff on board at this time of year, I don't know. But it'd be really great if they just brought it 3 months forward,
Yeah.
rather, because during our quiet time, there's very little updates.
You know how I know that there's going to be a dip in sales for a while? It's like every time I get a notification that, ooh, your business seller update is available. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
God, here we go.
yeah.
Roller coaster. For the next 3 weeks, no one's going to know what's going on. Half of the people have no sales, the other half have all the sales. And it's like, it's every single time because I'm assuming they do us half at a time. It must be. Or
Well, they have to store us on multiple servers, because when they roll out updates, I'll get something, and then a few weeks later you'll get something, etc. So Yes, that's essentially what they're going to do and will continue to do. And it's a good risk mitigation strategy, because if they roll an update out and it fails, then it only fails for X number of people rather than,
Yeah.
the whole of the website. Or if they're hacked through a server, then it's only isolated to those people and the whole system doesn't come crashing down.
Can I say something I love about eBay?
Oh, please.
I can source my items in bulk,
Mm,
sit at my computer, list it, and literally have millions of people see it, and I don't have to leave my house.
right? Also, it gives you options. Like, you can do those things and have money come into your bank account, which provides you with options. Like, what we do is such a glitch in the matrix.
Like the opportunity that eBay provides is incredible, and I know there's things we don't like about it, as with all things. There's things I don't like about a lot of things in my life, but the good by far outweighs that for me.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the fact that I can do what I did. My kids were sick, well, they weren't feeling well. I didn't have to ask someone to take the day off. I didn't have to explain to someone what illness my kids had and feel like I had some obligation to get them healthy as soon as possible to get back to work. I did my thing because I had a photo draft bank on my phone. I already have a draft bank anyway. But while my child was sick and she was having a nap doing the iPad, I did 175 listings that day.
Yeah. Because you have the flexibility to work wherever you wanted.
Like
Isn't
that's
that
priceless.
beautiful?
That's like, to me, that's priceless. Like the fact that my child's sick and I'm there, and I only work when she's sleeping or she's on her iPad or whatever. The rest of the time I
Mm.
was with her, like, and my phone kept going off making money. Like I didn't miss a beat that day.
For me, it's the idea I can take someone else's discarded, like, waste, really, because it's pre-owned. You sell new, so
Mm.
it's slightly different. And I can then take that and make money from it.
Hmm.
It blows my mind. It just I don't think I will ever find another thing quite like that in my life.
Oh, this is interesting. Let me tell you about this. So, there had been some seller panels, I guess, or like eBay have these events where they invite you as a
Mhm.
seller to get onto um, like Zoom calls where they talk about specific topics or whatever the case is. And on one of these ones, there was a mention that they wanted to approach brands to
Oh,
actually get the brands, because a lot of the brands are into sustainability now, the brands that have buyback policies. So let's say I have, I don't know, give me a clothing brand. I'm terrible at this.
just say
Um,
Levi's because they have a
Levi's.
buyback
Okay.
program.
Let's say I
Yep.
have a pair of Levi's. Levi's then offered to buy it back from me for a discount on a new pair. And then Levi's has an eBay store where they sell the used items.
That's a terrible idea, because then what if Levi's won't allow us to sell their secondary products?
This is the thing, because then these brands will stop everyone else from buying and selling it on eBay, so people won't be buying it anymore, so people will take it back to Levi's. They basically, it sounds like when they want these bigger brands to come on, and that will completely phase out whole categories.
Thanks for that cheery note. That's just
That,
great.
I mean, but it's,
It's a Friday. I didn't need this on a Friday. I was having a good week.
the thing is though, in theory, this sounds great for eBay, not for resellers. But do you understand like the amount of work that has to go into actually making that happen for each of these brands? Like,
Well, yeah,
I just don't see it
yeah,
being profitable or sustainable, and like it'll be years and years before they actually get this right and implemented for all the brands. Like there's
yeah.
more than enough time for you to get in and get your money and get out before this happens, if it even does happen.
So some brands in Australia actually have an eBay store. So Adidas is the one in particular that I'm going to target, because
Adidas.
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 Do you say Adidas?
Adidas. In South Africa we say Adidas.
There you go. well, that brand,
How can
have an
that?
eBay store, and their negative feedback is like hundreds. They
Oh
do
no.
such a bad job of actually
Oh
just
yeah.
dispatching the product when it's new from their warehouse. I can't imagine what would happen if they were to put up things that were pre-owned. Like, could you imagine the authenticity program rejecting all of their pre-owned ones
Yeah.
because they just simply don't describe it properly?
No. Which is funny because we have Argos here. I don't know if you have it in Australia, which is basically like a catalog site where you buy stuff and then they have like little shops in the supermarket where you go and pick it up.
Mhm.
And they used to have an eBay store where they sold their raw returns, so all their returns. Also, if someone returns something for doesn't like, they would put it up and then sell it as used or whatever the case is. And they actually stopped selling on eBay because their feedback and stuff was so bad because no one was checking the stuff.
Correct. Like, you do
Like,
actually have to do some checking.
I know, and it just, I guess, having to pay the manpower to run that operation on eBay, it's better off for them to just sell it off in pallets. And why would that then not be the case for these big brands? Think of the manpower and the employee costs to run an eBay store for someone like Levi's for used pairs of jeans.
I would love to see it. I
Is
think
that
that
even
people don't realize how much work goes into eBay because our
exactly?
charity shops, our op shops, thrift stores, whatever you want to call them, have eBay stores, and they are not very successful. Even their online websites actually run better than their eBay store because eBay, like we've discussed the item specifics before, like eBay
Yeah,
actually requires a lot more effort to be
yeah.
put into the product than just throwing it up online and it will sell.
Exactly. So in my mind, I don't see because the expense this will be to businesses, I don't see it happening. I can see how some of the brands do have buyback programs
Mm,
because they actually recycle the materials and the stuff to make it
yeah,
new products. They don't actually resell the items. Like if you go to the higher brands, like a lot of the mountain wear stuff and like sporting wear and stuff, they do buyback programs because they
yeah,
actually recycle those items back into new items or whatever the case is, but they don't resell them. The manpower and the layout cost to hire people to check every item, to photograph the item, to list the item, or you'll have generic listings which don't describe it properly. You'll send stuff out, you'll get a lot of returns, you'll get a lot of negatives, and eventually, just like Argos, these brands will go, this isn't worth it on eBay.
totally. It would just be a period to go through, and I can see it being like just a listing that says like jeans.
Yeah.
That's it. Like nothing. And sometimes when I go through the solds and I see a listing that's title is literally just jeans sell, I'm like, why does yours sell and mine doesn't? It's obviously just a blip in the radar, or someone was sniping and managed to get themselves a really good deal. But it just fascinates me that those products do eventually sell, but like how many warehouses full of stuff with some sort of inventory system that's different than your old one, which is like you've got 20,000 pairs of 501s in a size 32, 30 over here, and you just go grab that and put it in a mailer, whereas you have one-off unique products. Then it's an
Mm.
entirely different system that you have to train people for.
Yeah. A lot of those times there's listings that just says jeans or in my case job lot or whatever is
Yeah,
for specific people. Like if you go into them, you'll see it's actually a bundle of stuff and someone created it for a specific buyer. Like I've seen that a lot. I will Google like sometimes I go onto eBay and just check what's for sale, like job lots and things to buy. And there'll be like car parts. That's it. That's a listing, car parts.
it's
And
very
then you
thorough.
click on it and it's obviously was made for someone.
Hmm.
Um,
I mean,
so
that
that
makes sense.
okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of this is bad listings, but apparently
Yeah.
they sell as well.
Or the ones on the back of the like bathroom or toilet door, I'm like, why do you sell? It's probably just a good deal, but I'm like, I just the buyer psychology is really interesting to me.
Do you want to gamble like that though? Like that's the thing. If they do these things and they put these bad listings up, that is such like you need a glitch for it to sell. Like I don't want to back on glitches.
Yeah, and I think that if eBay was pushing companies to do this, and that then there was just a whole bunch of bad listings on the platform, it wouldn't actually help them. They probably, and then if they ban people reselling them,
Mm.
like people like me, then they cut off their hand, really.
I think the thing is that eBay doesn't want to ban it. I think the brands will just get much more aggressive with their Viros. Do you know what I mean? And eBay can't afford to take them on, so they just comply.
Yeah, and there's already been, like, this year, an increase in the number of Viros that have come through. Thankfully, I haven't received them, but I'm seeing them very frequently in the Facebook groups.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot, not me personally, but I'm getting a lot of feedback about it in the car park category as well.
Oh,
Because
really?
in the car park categories, a lot of people don't understand that if it's an aftermarket part, you can't write brake discs, Nissan, Qashqai.
Uh, yeah.
Like it has to be four of it. Like, do you know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
and being much more aggressive with that as well. Let me ask you something as we close off. If eBay could make one change now, like what's the best change eBay could make right now that will help you propel your business forward?
Um, the best thing that would weight in my favor is that they don't throttle your traffic when there is some sort of defect that pops up, whether it's, and I know that some people would disagree and say that it doesn't happen, but like the slowdown that you get when you do get the INAD for like that until the next day when it seems to reset after midnight, or when you do get a negative sometimes, not always. It used to do it more than it has done now. It seems to throttle your traffic as well. Whereas if I could just have steady traffic, then my sales in turn would be steady and that would propel my business forward. What about you?
Do you think you could outpace that though? Like, do you think at some point your store and your business becomes so big that you outpace whatever type of throttle there is when those things happen?
Yeah, so the proof of that is Tech because he had the largest store. So he would have just had enough customers that it came to his store every day that it would have offset because they knew his store. It would have offset any of those things that happened, even if there was like listings being pulled offline or at least in the search to be updated in some capacity. If people are still finding his items through going into his store directly rather than searching through the algorithm, then he kind of offset all those things. So there is a lot to be said about building up a customer base and a curated customer base that keep coming back to buy directly from you.
Yeah.
What about you, Sue?
I think for me, if eBay could sort out the catalog for genuine parts, that would propel my business. So right now, you know how in car part listings we have compatibility, so people are able to put in
Mhm.
their registration and it matches to
Yeah.
parts that match.
Yep.
So they have a catalog. So if you put in
Mhm.
a part number, it'll automatically fill that in for you, but they only offer it for aftermarket parts. So for my new parts, I
Oh,
either have to go click every car individually or you just don't do it. I just don't do it because it'll literally take me half an hour per item to do it. And I can't afford to do that.
why in the world would they do it for aftermarket parts but not the actual genuine parts?
I
Seemingly
think
the
it's
information
because
would be more available.
I think it's because there's not a service provider available they can integrate with to give
Ah,
them
okay,
that
yeah.
information. Because aftermarket is available
Mm.
through a company called TechDoc, but I don't know if genuine is. But honestly, if eBay could just sort that out for me, because right now people put in their registration and my part won't come up because I
Mm.
don't have that filled in, because it'll take me half an hour per listing, and I like that would ruin my business.
Silly, it's hypothetical scenario. Um, AI, if you were to upload a photo of it, could it extrapolate that information for you so then you could just copy and paste the details out if you
My
trained it to
issue
do that?
is the actual process of adding the
Mm.
vehicles. So the system eBay has
Oh,
to
okay.
do that is so old and outdated. Let's say I
Yeah.
have a part that fits these five Nissan models between this year and this year with these
Mm.
engines. I literally have to go clicker every car for every year for every engine for like there is no filter by this year range and like literally you go Nissan, Qashqai, and then you have to go through the entirety of that range and go click that 2011 2-liter diesel, 2011 1.8, dude.
Oh man,
Like,
that's a lot.
honestly, it'll
That's
take
a
me
lot.
half an hour per listing.
Yeah, I like
It's
item specifics,
absolutely,
but I don't like that. That's hard.
or mate, one day I'll show you. It's ridiculousness. It's ridiculousness.
Yeah, I've got no solution. I thought I was going to give you like the savior for that, but that's not going to help at all. Unless you could build some sort of like system that would tick the box for you, but that's going to be way above our capabilities, I
So
think.
basically, what eBay lets you filter by is make, model, and then there's one more, which I think is like body shape or something. And that's great. But do you know how many like Audi A1s there's been?
No,
Like,
I don't.
like
I'm
how,
sure there's a lot.
it's, they, anyway, I won't go into it. But if anyone at eBay, and I know eBay's going to listen to this,
I think eBay
um,
has a photo of you up in their office and they're like, don't
probably,
engage with this woman.
probably. But if they could just fix that for me, that even just set up filters so we can filter the stuff properly. Like that, I can roll with that as well. But you can't be calling us eBay parts and accessories the biggest category. One sells every 8 seconds. We're propelling it forward. We're spending all our money on it, and then this is the system you give us to work on. Because you're too busy. You're too busy making knee-jerk reactions to clothing sellers who isn't even in your top 5 categories. I'm just saying. Like, know where your bread is buttered, mate.
And this is why I like you, Hanley, because you're like, eBay's amazing and gives me all these opportunities and I'm so
I
grateful to make
do.
all this money, etc., etc. And you're also like down with the patriarch. Do it my way.
I don't understand what's wrong with that because my husband's also the best thing that ever happened to me and he's still really freaking annoying. Like, you can love and hate something at the same time. I don't understand. Like,
He just puts you in your place. That's why you don't like
he
it.
does not. But I have complicated relationships with everything in my life.
But even me, I'm sure. I just don't
You
know about
are,
it because you
you're
it
just,
with me in your head.
um, oh, what was I going to say? I don't know. But if there's anything else that you guys want to change about eBay, we can do another one of these. So let us know what's the worst and the best part about eBay, what features you want to change, what features you want to add. Um, my business is mainly eBay, so I don't really have experience about that. Although I launched a website not that long ago, and last week I had my first sale from my website, so I was very excited about it because I did it all by myself because I wanted to learn to do it myself before I go to someone to help me with it. So I actually understood what they said when they were talking about it. You don't just get duped into paying thousands for things that are unnecessary. So I'm quite chuffed that I was able to set up my own website and get my own sale through organic search engine. Like,
Look, I was tossing up whether I would bring it up with you because I saw it on your Instagram post about that. And I just am like 50-50 on whether this is like a Bright Ideas Tuesday Hanley move or if it's like going to be a long-term like play.
so the whole thing about it was just to have brand presence on outside of eBay because a lot of the ways we're trying to get into sourcing and a lot of the people we're dealing with and like the those type of situations we're getting into, a lot of them when you go into like the contact sheets and stuff, they ask for your website. So I
Okay, that
wanted
makes
to
sense.
create, yeah, so I
Yeah.
wanted to create a brand presence that's not just eBay. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah.
And I think for that alone, it's worth it. It's also built with plugins and integration, so it now takes me zero effort to run. Like,
That's
I still use eBay to list and everything, and it just pulls it through to that side and automatically takes it off. And I mean, to be honest, if something sells on eBay and on the website, I'll just cancel the website one. I'm not fussed about it. But
yeah.
I'm trying to create a brand presence that isn't just eBay for those type of things.
That makes a lot of sense because when I send some emails and stuff, I wish I had a company name and a company
Mm.
website that I could actually send the email from.
Yes,
Um, that seems a little bit more professional than just from at
yes,
gmail.com. So
yes.
that makes total sense.
So I created a domain, and we now have email addresses that's like at our company name. And when we do fill in these forms and things, we can, where usually when they ask for your website, you'd have to put in your eBay site, and you're like, no, like do you
Mm.
know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
it's less
and then
professional.
I'm also creating a page on the website that will allow people to send us information if they have parts to sell.
Oh yeah, that's a great
For
idea.
contact form. So I mean
Mhm.
that could be handy. I mean, I'm not really I'm still playing around with it, but it's not that I'm trying to leave eBay and I'm angry at eBay and I'm going to build my own website. That's not what it is at all. My business is still 99% eBay, and that's fine. It's just, I think it is important to get to a certain point where you want to take your business that step further, and these are good ways to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it I guess the best way I can kind of word it is that it's nice when you take that step from being like a kind of hobbyist into that more professional space. And if that's simply building your website to be able to have that information available for a supplier, like you're taking that step from being like an amateur into the real professional corporate kind of space.
There's a lot of the bigger suppliers and auction houses and things that don't want their products just on eBay. That's the thing though.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, so that's handy for those type of things, and I've actually really enjoyed learning about it and figuring out how it works and like the SEO and stuff. And I think eventually I'll just pay someone to come in and actually do it properly, because I'm pretty sure I've done like an entry level job, and that's okay because it works. It doesn't work
Yeah.
well. I'm sure I can pay someone to make it work a lot better. But at least now when I speak to someone about it, I'm not going to be like, I don't know what that means. I don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
I'll have an idea of what it is we're doing. So I'm actually quite chuffed with myself for that.
You should be. I mean, it's just like doing your first listing. Like that was entry level as well. And over time you
Yeah.
build stuff and it's going to be the same as everything. Like you will get more and more skilled in this pursuit if it's not a Bright Ideas Tuesday and then you don't circle back and get rid of it. Um, but that's really awesome.
I'm enjoying it. What about you? Any good business updates?
Uh, I'm pretty consistent at the 90 a day at the moment, which has been nice.
That's
I'm trying to,
insane, Sam. That is
I know,
insane.
I'm trying to really hard to build up the muscles to be able to do the 120.
Oh,
Um, and it's not even physical muscles. Like when I say that, it's like mentally because I get to the 90 and I'm
yeah.
like, I'm bored of this now. But I've reduced the time in which it takes to photograph everything, which is good. Um, but yeah, I'm doing the 120 in the sense of I'm going to build up the draft bank while sending the 90 live because obviously we just got back from interstate. But I think I've nailed the sourcing to be able to keep that number up higher than the 90.
I'm both impressed, encouraged, and a bit discouraged by that.
I hope
Um,
so. You can do it too.
yes.
You've done 75 before, and then you get bored, and then you just wander away and to do other things. Like, I know you can do more.
I know. To be honest with you, the thing that's holding me back from doing more at the minute is the sourcing. We're finding it hard because my husband is still working full time. We're finding it
Yeah,
really hard to balance getting enough stock in between him working full time, me and the kids, and trying to do the business.
yeah,
Which is why we need him to join the business early next year, because we're just finding it really, really hard to
yeah,
get enough of the stock in to really do the 75 live a day that I know I can do.
yeah. I totally get that. Is the plan for him still to go full time next year?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
been delayed by a couple of months because obviously we
yeah.
had the house and everything going on,
That's what
but
I'm
it's
asking.
definitely still happening and we're still mostly on track for it. But right now, the logistics is what's keeping me behind.
Yeah, I get that. It's only because I was able to work out this interstate stock source that's proving very, very fruitful that
Yeah.
I've actually been able to go, okay, I can actually confidently take that next step. Um, and then maybe take this step afterwards as well. So once you get all the pieces in a line, it seems to be how it can be successful. Like you don't want to burn yourself out and then have to recover either.
So I think for me that like you're able to do that because you have the freedom to travel on those days and stuff when you need to. And for us that's our biggest thing at the minute. Because we
Yeah,
do have the home life and the kids and they're in school, and
yeah,
it's not like we can
mhm,
just pull them out of school and like and So we're finding it
No.
really hard to have that freedom of movement to bring that amount of stock in. Once my husband
Yeah.
works full time, he can be on the road all day, every
Getting,
day. That's what it
yeah,
takes. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But because he's at work from
Mm,
7 a.m. to 5 a.m., like, and I'm at home and I'm limited to between 9 and 3 when my kids are in school. Like
of
for me
course.
to drive 5 hours to go get my stock, we're just finding it very hard to have the freedom of travel, if you know what I
That
mean.
makes perfect sense, especially
Yeah,
when you would then have to fit around that 5 hours and the kids
yeah,
being at school, you still have to fit in the listings as well.
yeah,
Like it's and the shipping. Like it's not
yeah,
like those things just stop so you can jump in the car to go away.
yeah. So I
Mm.
think once we get that sorted next year, we're gonna really be able to blow it up. But until
Mm.
then, I can't complain with the business I've been able to build in these
No.
time frames and the fact that we are able to do what we're doing. Like I think sometimes you just have to set in it and be, this is my capabilities for right
Mm.
now. But we are working on the plan. It is coming. It's just going to take a little bit longer. But there's no point in us now trying to force something that I know won't
Yeah.
work and it will just harm us in the long run.
Yeah. Because I'm sure that you have done that in the past,
Yeah.
and I know I have, and the long-term outcome and effects of that is genuinely not worth making the reactionary, aka eBay, response to the situation. Like, if you can just delay it by a couple months to make sure that it's the perfect outcome for you,
Yeah.
like you've already grown so much in the last couple months anyway. Like your capacity to be able to do the things that you need to get done has already grown. So I can't imagine what you'll do next year.
I've already doubled this year compared to
Yeah,
next year.
yeah,
So, I mean, I can't complain with that. I know that I have the type of personality who just wants to keep going, but I also have to understand that that's just not, it's just a couple of months. Like in
correct.
4 or 5 months, he will be here full time and will be free to do those things. So my biggest challenge right now is just gonna have to be like not be reactionary and just sit tight. Which, Sam,
I'm gonna record that. Well, this is recorded, but I'm gonna snip that, and every time you send me something, I'm just gonna send you that back.
the struggle is real. It really
Oh, I
is.
know.
And on that uplifting note, thank you for joining us this week. If you have any comments, questions, you want to add any features, take out any features, just anything. I also quickly want to say on the last episode we put out that I had a bit of a brain dump. I really appreciate everyone's comments and thoughts on it. I know that that was a bit left field for what we usually do, and I was kind of just telling you guys what's going on in my head, but I did feel very um I guess the word is supported. Like I felt like everyone was very open to it, and I just wanted to say thank you for making it through that whole video in the first place. Because like I went and listened back to it, and I was like, how are people still listening to me going on about this? But thank you.
This is what I mean about you sharing. You
Uh,
like to involve everyone,
I
but
really
the comments were actually really, really nice.
we did. Everyone was really nice. So thank you very much for that. You have any parting words, Sam?
Nah, I
Oh,
like this new time slot. It's great.
I actually really like it. So we're recording much earlier in the morning because my business is doing well and I need to get my shipping done. And it gives me a really good start to the day. Like I feel, after we talk, I feel motivated. I feel ready to go on a Friday, which usually Fridays are my worst days because I'm like, oh, I can't be screwed with this anymore. So I'm actually quite liking this.
It's a new month. Don't worry about the day. It's a new month. You got
It's my
all new
birthday this
opportunities.
month.
So your birthday? When's your birthday?
No, it's not my birthday today. It's this month.
Yeah,
Um,
when?
I'll be 35.
What
Oh,
date?
the 23rd.
23rd. Oh, look at that. It's nearly Christmas.
I know, can you believe it? Anyway, thank you everyone, because we'll just sit here and keep going.
Why?
I know, well, we do. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Love you,
Thank you.
Nigel. Bye.
Bye.